Good evening, everybody. It is Monday, 7 p.m., and we are here at the WeBeam TV studios in Newport Richey, Florida, bringing our 42nd or 43rd episode. What episode, John? 43rd episode of 62 Who Knew, over 10 months. And last week, proud to announce we had a little more than 44,000 viewers. Thank you very much for listening to me, as I was the guest and the host last week. So I was expecting maybe 12, maybe 18 viewers. So thank you very much for staying tuned and listening to what we have planned for the future of 62 Who Knew. And tonight is the start of a very big part of that future. If you notice, we have a new apparatus here. This is our new microphone. I want you to actually email me and see what you think of this. I like it. It has that old news effect. I'm not used to talking like this with something directly in my face, but I want to get your opinion. So let me know what you think about this. I do feel like just doing a quick, David Brinkley impression and going, "This is the news tonight," but I won't do that. Again, we want to thank everybody. What I always do is start with a little synopsis of what 62 Who Knew is for our new viewers that we seem to be attracting every week, that we're so grateful for. The synopsis or the premise behind 62 Who Knew is this. Everyone, it doesn't make a difference who you are. It doesn't make a difference what income bracket you are, except for maybe the top 1% of this country. But for the other 99% of us, as we approach the age of 62, for some people it's when they're approaching 60. For some people it's in their 50s. But as you're getting closer and closer to the age of 62, normally you start to think about retirement. Hopefully you've been planning for your retirement a lot longer than that. But the closer you get to that 62 mark, probably because that's when we qualify for Social Security, that's when we really start to think about it. Have we saved enough money? Have we made the correct investments? Should we put our money in stocks or annuities or both? Should we take our Social Security at 62 years old, or should we defer to a later point in time? Do we still need our life insurance? Do we need long-term care insurance? The Medicare part of our lives at 65 is not that far away. And then, of course, that brings us to Medicare supplemental policies. We need to eat different. We need to sleep different. We need to travel different. We all get to this point. And as I'm fond of saying, our fathers had these same questions as they approached their early 60s, their fathers and their fathers before them. But my generation, I'm going to be 61 in just a couple of weeks, our generation, we have a different obstacle to overcome. We truly do. And that obstacle is longer lifespans. No one can deny that in the last 2 to 3 decades, scientific and medical breakthroughs, science and technologies have changed our lives tremendously. And we are simply living longer. The truth of the matter is, if you make it to 65 in the United States of America, just make it to 65, the odds are very good that you're going to make it to 90. So the premise of this show is, who knew when you got to 62, when that retirement light is right in front of you, that you still had half the amount of time that you've been here, another 30 years to go. And when you think about it, it's a blessing, but it's also a very double-edged sword. So the premise of this show is to bring on a guest every week that helps us not only conquer and live with another 30 years, but do it in style, do it in quality, and do it with a peace of mind. And we are so proud to say that the premise has been very well accepted, because we have grown from 0 viewers to more than 40,000 per week, and it is our goal to be over 100,000 before the end of this year. So that's what we're here for. We are so glad that you've decided to join us. Tonight we have, I know I say a special guest all the time, but all my guests are special. And this one is too, because I've had the pleasure of knowing her and her entire family for a little more than a decade now. Our guest tonight is Ms. Julie Hollender, who is a franchise owner and travel advisor with Cruise Planners, which is an American Express travel representative. Cruise Planners is an award-winning travel company and a top producer with cruise lines, tour operators, and land vacation retailers throughout the world. She is a certified cruise director, a cruise certified. She has knowledge. I'm not going to go in actually to her whole bio because I want her to do it. I'll do it in justice. And Julie, like everyone else, in her family, has had the unique perspective since being very young of spending most of her adult life helping people. She hasn't always been in the vacation business. In fact, she was a very well nationally known long-term care insurance spokesperson and professional. Traveled the country with her dad, Mr. Peter Gelbwax, and was a staple in that industry. She has spent her entire adult life helping people in one way or another, and we're so glad to have her in the 62 Who Knew family. So, John, let's bring her on. And there you are. Hello, Miss Julie.
There I am.
There you
Hello.
are. How are you doing? Thank you for coming on.
I'm doing great tonight, Mike. Thanks.
Good. So I'm going to ask you the same question that I ask every guest. It doesn't make a difference what they do for a living. You had a little bit of a different road getting to be a vacation expert. What you came from was not exactly that, but you have been helping people have a quality of life your entire adult life, which is kind of a staggering thing to say, and it's true. So tell us, how did we get first into the long-term care insurance world, and then from that to where you are today? Give us a little brief history.
Absolutely. Well, as you said, I grew up in the insurance business. Both of my parents were heavily involved in the insurance business, and so that was the natural for me. As a matter of fact, coming out of college, I wanted to work for a cruise line, and I actually did internships at a few cruise lines during college. But then when I graduated, it was just a no-brainer that I needed to be in the insurance business with my family.
Hmm.
And so I spent 25 years in that business, loving what I did, helping people, as you mentioned, specializing in long-term care, speaking all over the country, training insurance agents nationwide. And I really, really enjoyed it very much. I was always heavily focused on the education side of it. So, if you know me, then you know that I like to know every detail about everything that I'm talking about. And that was very helpful in that industry because it was always evolving and changing constantly and so many different things to know. But when we decided to sell the company, I was thinking about what I could do next and what I knew the most about. And I said, if I'm not going to be in the insurance business, then, where could I go that I would enjoy my day-to-day life and experience and still feel like I have a lot of knowledge in that area? So I started thinking about it. I said, well, I've spent 25 years in sales and marketing, and I have done more than anything else, travel. And so I thought about it. I said I'd been on, at that point, 43 cruises with 12 different cruise lines, so a wide variety. I had been to over 50 countries and on 5 different continents. And I had gone around the world on a semester at sea for 100 days on a ship with college students. And in that trip alone, we got to 11 countries. And so it was just an absolutely unbelievable experience. But by far, cruising was something I knew the most about, and seeing the world was a huge passion of mine. And it still is to this day, of course. And so the transition was natural. The other thing I thought about was that selling long-term care insurance, as much as I was helping people and really helping the industry understand what they were looking at, it's somewhat of a sad topic.
Yes.
And people buying it are not thrilled to be buying it. They feel the need to buy it. They understand the need. They buy it because they have to, and they should. But I wanted to move on to something that for me was exciting, because people on the other side of the phone or email or sitting on the other side of the desk are saying to me how excited they are to be buying what I was selling.
So,
And then the best part of it is when they come back and tell
oh,
me
yeah.
how fabulous of a time they had.
So you're
really
telling me that buying long-term care insurance is not as much fun as sitting on the Lido deck with a shrimp cocktail and a pina colada? Really? Is that what you're telling me?
Absolutely, 100%.
Well, before we go on to some great questions, and as I said, we always get to speak to our guests, a little before the show. This hour goes so quickly. We're not going to cover all the things that you and I want to cover, and thank you for agreeing to be our vacation specialist on 62 Who Knew for our guests. We will have Julie's web address up on the website within a week, so you'll be able to hear all the good things and see all the good things that they do. But I have to mention, because it's just the way I feel about life, when you came out of college, everybody has a mentor. Not everybody. A lot of people have mentors. Some of them are, books and famous people that they read, whether it be, Anthony Robbins or something like that. I love Anthony Robbins. I've been to a lot of his things. But you were blessed to have a mentor in the long-term care world, which is your father, one of the most tremendous men that I've ever met in my life. And that's just such a blessing. Not everybody is blessed. I was too, to have a father that is also a mentor.
I'm thankful every day for that.
Yeah, he's an incredible man.
He's an amazing guy.
We're going to get him on the show, but we're going to have to do a 3-hour show, and we discussed that earlier, and that's for that. So, okay, my favorite vacation is a cruise. I'm a type A personality, and quite frankly, it makes me relax. Let's talk. If you look at TV, they say that cruising is the most popular choice for people that are seniors or approaching the latter part of their life. Is that true? Is cruising the thing?
It absolutely is, and it is such a fast-growing industry as well. You wouldn't probably believe if I told you that in 2018, there were 28.5 million people that cruised.
28.5 million?
Million, yes. And this year, in 19, they're expecting it to be 30 million. And if you look back 10 years, you were at 17.8. So it is growing by leaps and bounds. And, that's also evidenced by the amount of ships on order. We have something like 75 new ships that are on order for the next 10 years, that are coming out in the next 10 years. They're spending $65 billion on that. And it's just because they're trying to fill the need of all of these people out there in this market that's changing, just like long-term care insurance. Every time we blink, there's something new. There's a new ship on the horizon, and it is really very exciting. There's. I know I'm giving you a lot of numbers, but this is the only time I'm going to do this.
No, that's okay. I love those numbers. Yeah, and let's face it, ships. I'm getting up there in years. The definition of ships is different. These are not ships. These are floating hotels. These are floating resorts. Maybe 10, 15 years ago, they were floating hotels. Now they're floating resorts. It is staggering what you see when you go on a cruise.
There are just so many choices, and just for a quick second to go back to who's cruising that you were asking about, there are it runs the gamut. There's pretty much everyone out there you'll find on a cruise ship, and really I would say the average age cruiser in the ocean cruises is about mid-40s, and then the average age cruiser in river cruising is higher. It's in the 60s, 70s range.
I haven't done that yet. And
there's a lot of reasons for that. It isn't just, we could go into that in a little while, but there are a lot of reasons for river cruising being at a little bit older segment of the population. And I think that's something important to talk about. But the ships, there are so many and so many different types. When we look at the industry, and you look at currently, there's 272 ships out there this year in the world.
That's amazing.
It's crazy. And so you have everything from, the contemporary cruise lines to the premier, what they call premium cruise lines, to the luxury lines, to the river cruise lines, and then also the, expedition and adventure ships. And there's such a wide variety that you've got what you were talking about, Mike, like the, mega ships that are 220,000 tons that hold 6,000 people, that are like cities. And then you've got, yacht type cruising and some ships that hold, 50, 60 people. And so you've really got a wide variety to choose from.
It really is incredible. The last cruise that I was on, my son and I took the tour of the back, seeing the engine room, which was just staggering. Truthfully, though, the kitchen and the laundry staggered me more.
Yep.
I mean, they're taking care of thousands of people per hour doing something, and it was just incredible. And I want to talk about destinations because I'm very narrow when it comes to destinations. I live in Florida, as you do. So to me, when I want to get away for a quick cruise, it usually is the Bahamas, and I rush out to either Cape Canaveral, or I come to Fort Lauderdale. Don't want to make the 5-hour trip to Miami too much, but we're lucky here in Florida that we have several ports where you can get on the best ships and just get away. I'm hoping my one of the things on my bucket list is to take the whole family and go to Alaska. That is like my dream vacation, a cruise to Alaska. But
Alaska's incredible. It's very, very beautiful. One of the prettiest cruises we've ever done. I've done it 3 times, and just I would love to do it again. It's just that good. But as far as the itineraries are concerned, there's about a little more than a third of all cruises go to the Caribbean. So that is still number one destination for cruising, and that's because it's where it all started. But the second destination, as far as the amount of people going and the amount of ships going, would be Europe, heavily Mediterranean, but then also British Isles, Norwegian fjords, the Baltics, the Northern Europe areas. There's a lot of Europe cruising happening. That's also about a third of the market, a little less than the Caribbean. And you would think it'd be more, but Alaska's only at about 5%.
Really?
So, I would urge more people to get on Alaska cruises. The best time to do that would be May through September. That's the season. And you're going to get the least expensive rates in May and September because they're the edge of the season. But really, any time is beautiful there. And then you've got something like 10% of people cruising in the Asian countries. And then you have Australia, New Zealand being about 5%, and South America being a little less than that. Right. And there's all kinds of other itineraries that you wouldn't even think about that are falling into the other category.
Really? Yeah, I'm surprised to hear that Alaska is as little as 5%. I'm not a world traveler. I have some friends that are, and they have all said to me, the ones that have been in the pyramids, in Egypt, or walked downtown Shanghai, they have all said nothing compares to going down Glacier Bay and seeing a piece of ice fall off an iceberg the size of a building. And they say there's just nothing more breathtaking. I can't wait to take the whole family and do that. That is a goal for 2020. If you know a good travel agent that can help me book that,
and it's very doable
because
you can fly easily into Seattle or Vancouver, and really relatively inexpensive on a lot of those cruises as well. If you don't want to make it a luxury cruise, it doesn't have to be. There's certainly a lot of great options in Alaska for all kinds of different people that are looking.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's talk about different cruise lines. Obviously, we're not going to say this one's bad, this one's not. Even with my limited, I've been on maybe 8 or 10 cruises, but again, all to the Caribbean. And I know I've kind of outgrown certain lines and like a little other things now. But there are so many lines out there that I'm probably not familiar with. What are the most popular ones? Or when somebody says to you, what cruise line should I take? Does it depend on their location? What questions do you ask them?
Sure. Well, it's an interesting question. To what I ask people a lot of times is, what kind of hotel do they like to stay in? Because that will kind of tell me, in some sense of the word, what type of cruise line might fit for them. And when I mentioned earlier that there are contemporary lines, those are going to be the least expensive. Those are going to be the family-friendly lines, like a Royal Caribbean, Norwegian Cruise Line, Carnival, MSC, that group. And then, generally speaking, you're going to see a lot of families, a lot of younger people, and then also one of the big trends right now is multi-generational travel. So you have many situations where you have grandparents going with their kids and their grandkids, and taking everybody on a cruise where they go with 20, 30 people and have this wonderful experience because there's something for everyone. Generally, that happens on the contemporary lines. You're going to see that most because there's so much for kids. As well on those lines. Did I even mention Carnival?
Yes, you did. You did. You did.
I was going to say,
and Carnival is where I took my first 5, 6 cruises when my kids were younger and had nothing but a great time. I know they get a bummer rap every now and then in the newspaper, but I had nothing but great times on Carnival.
But the fact that there's something for everyone on those lines especially is really important when it comes to multi-generational travel, because you could be sitting in a library or out on deck reading while your kids are inside doing ice skating or rock climbing or going to
zip lining,
and your kids are at the shows, and the grandkids are doing everything known to man that they can't get enough of what's out there and what's available. And so it's just really fabulous as far as those lines are concerned. And then you've got the premium lines, and those would be Princess, Holland America, Cunard, a Celebrity. Those are the in-between kind of pricing range, and really you'll find more of an older crowd there, meaning not old, but older, less children. Any cruise ship, though, if you are going to be traveling during the times when school is out, like summer or winter break or spring break, there are going to be families and children on those ships. But in those premium lines, generally speaking, you're going to have a little bit of a higher level of service, a little bit of a higher level of food, dining, and then when you go up from there, there's Oceania, which is known for the finest food at sea.
Really?
They spend more money on food than any other cruise line in the business per person. Unbelievable. And then you go up to the luxury lines, which are Regent Seven Seas, Silver Sea, Crystal. There's so many. So, and if I didn't mention one, that isn't because I don't love it. It's just because we don't have a lot of time.
That's right. Yeah, we're doing good so far.
Right.
It's going by, but we're good.
And then river cruising. So river cruising.
Tell me a little bit about river cruising.
Yeah. So in the river cruise market, there's no question that Viking has that whole marketplace, similar to the contemporary lines in ocean cruising, because they have in the range of 60 to 70 ships, which is unbelievable. And they've done the most advertising of all of the river cruise lines. And they also come in, generally speaking, at the lowest price point. River cruising is more expensive. It is generally in destinations that, you haven't been to yet, even if you are a world traveler. And it is more destination intensive, meaning it's more like a floating hotel. Right. So because there's not all kinds of crazy amounts of entertainment and fun things to do on the ship, because you're on these much smaller ships that hold 200, 100, or in that range of how passengers as far as the size. What they're doing is they're going through these towns that you're seeing the whole day as you're on that, as you're traveling through the different rivers all around the world, and then they're overnighting in these places. So you're able to get off easily, very easily, right off into that town and spend the whole day in that town into the evening. And then just use the river cruise ship as basically your floating hotel. And because I mentioned before that there is a bit of an older clientele there, and that's because many of those people have been to all of the other places around the world, or many of them on ocean cruise ships. Also, there's more money that can be spent on those types of trips when you're older, and also because they're in many ways more intellectual, that there are lectures being given and people that they bring on from the different ports to do small performances for you that more heavily cultural,
Hmm.
and then the food and service levels are very high.
I can imagine with
So
100 people.
so I mentioned Viking, but there's some great river cruise lines. There's Amma and there's Avalon and there's Crystal and Scenic and Tauk and just so many Emerald, and there's just quite a few. And they also have categories where you've got the highest end luxury, and then the middle range, and then the more contemporary. So that it's there's so much to know.
All right. So now that the family has you, I don't have to worry about this stuff. But for our audience out there, like when I talk about taking the children and the grandchildren and everybody, to Alaska, this is an amount of money, and I have advice coming from you know experts everywhere that are not. Michael, the further in advance you plan it, the less expensive it's going to be. Michael, prepare a week before when you want to go because if there's any empty cabins, there's going to be a great deal. That doesn't make much sense to me. But if somebody wanted to do like truthfully, let's use a real example. Before school starts again in August, I want to take the kids and the grandkids on a quick cruise to the Bahamas. It's
Right.
June. We should be planning this now, shouldn't we?
Okay, so
Or
you
is
should
it
have
too
planned
late?
that 6 months ago. Okay, so
Story of my
interesting.
life.
There's an interesting answer to that, and that is a lot of people think that if you book very early, like let's say a year out, and there's many, many, many people that book a year out.
Hmm.
Okay, um, uh, what happens if the rates go down? Okay, I booked now for next summer, and what if I see that over the next however many months the rates keep going down, down, down? What's going to happen?
Right.
Well, first of all, to answer that part of it, you in many cases can reprice
Oh, okay.
um, to get the better rate, so you're not missing out on that in many, many
It's
cases.
not like the mortgage world. I don't have to lock, huh?
Right. I mean, you put a deposit down. Sometimes they're refundable, sometimes they're not.
Right.
But most of the time, you can reprice for that better priced cruise.
All right.
Or you can just get an upgrade to a better part of the ship or a better stateroom because the prices are lower than what you paid. Sometimes they'll offer that.
Hmm.
But, the biggest plus to booking far in advance is that you have your choice. You have your choice of the type of stateroom you want, where you want it to be on the ship, and you have really almost no choice when you're last minute.
Yeah,
So
you're taking what's
if you're
available.
booking now for this summer, you certainly can do that. There's
Right.
a handful of cabins available on ships all over the place, but you're not going to get what you're specifically looking for. Or if you're traveling as a group, which is very, very popular, and you want to have staterooms that are even somewhat near each other, then you have to book further in advance because you're not going to find as many choices when it comes to staterooms next to each other. Another thing is if you're booking triples or quads. So if you're booking 3 people in a room or 4 people in a room, like when you're bringing the kids,
Right.
okay, as an example, ships max out at capacity for triples and quads. Even if they have space, they can't sell it after a certain point.
Okay.
So there are lots of reasons to try and book early. If you can't, there's opportunity. Believe me, there's a lot of ships out there, and you certainly could book. You might not get the price you want, you might not get the room you want, but you can get on the ship.
All right. I'll email you tomorrow what I'm looking for because I really want to do this. I want to go to Vegas in August and I want to take a cruise. Okay.
Great. Well,
Let's talk about that upgrading staterooms. I mean, again, when
yeah.
I was younger, I always wanted a room with a window. I didn't want to be below deck. Ever since I saw the movie Titanic, I just don't want to be below deck. It's just, they put the gates up, they don't let you out. It's totally wrong. There's not enough
Right.
lifeboats. Everyone knows the story. So, but I moved up from, the window to maybe a larger window. Now I'm, of course, addicted to having a terrace. I mean, you just can't beat walking out on your terrace in the
So
ocean. You just can't beat it.
for people who are not familiar with cruising at all, and there are a lot of
Yes.
people who have never been on a cruise before, just to take it back a step, yeah, the primary choices that you are offered are an inside cabin which has no windows, and what they call an ocean view cabin or stateroom that has a window. That could be a porthole or it could be a picture window.
Right.
Okay. The next level up would be a balcony, generally speaking, where you have some sort of veranda.
Right.
And then the next level up from that are suites. The really, I think the thing that a lot of people don't realize, even people that know what we're talking about here, is that there are so many different categories within each one of those categories.
I didn't know that.
So,
Yeah.
so there are all kinds of different size staterooms. You want an inside, but you want it to be bigger. You want it to be connecting. You want to have a suite on one side and connect it to another cabin on the other side that isn't a suite. You want to have an extra large balcony versus a standard size. You want to have a family, type of stateroom that has additional types of beds in there.
Mm-hmm.
You have suites ranging from what they call mini suites in the 200-300 square foot range up to suites that could be 4,000 square feet. I mean, it's crazy. So there's so many different choices within those categories that it's really important to have somebody to talk to that knows how to help you pick those.
Okay. What's included, what's not? To me, one of the favorite things about a cruise is once you write that check. I mean, yes, I like to take excursions and do other things that are extra, obviously, but really and truly, once you write that check, other than the tips you leave for people, and I know that can be included in the, in everything. My God, you can have an incredible vacation without spending any more money once you board that ship.
So what you need to know is, first of all, every single cruise and every single cruise line is different. So it doesn't make it easy for us. But you will find that you can have all of your meals, your stateroom, your hotel, and you can have all of the entertainment. I shouldn't say all, most of the entertainment on board, all at no cost. Also water, tea, coffee. But once you get into alcoholic beverages, specialty coffees, like you mentioned, gratuities, specialty dining, specialty shows, and shore excursions, spa, anything you want to buy at a gift shop. Those are all things that are going to be additional cost. You don't have to do any of them. They are all completely optional.
Right.
I like you said, I could get on a cruise ship tomorrow and spend nothing at all except for the gratuities. Now, there are so many different offers and promotions out there that sometimes you get gratuities included, and sometimes you get all of those things that I mentioned included in the fare, in addition to discounted airfare and things like onboard credit so that you can spend the money how you'd like for those types of things. But really just be aware that, if you're getting extra amenities, sometimes you're paying a price for that.
That's right.
So a cruise line might offer you the lowest sail away type rate with no amenities, or they might say for $300 or $500 or $1,000 more, you can have all kinds of things included.
Right.
So, you really have to break down each offer.
What is the proper tip? I mean, I got to tell you again, you've been on 43 cruises. I've been on like 7. But every one of them has been a good experience. I mean, you leave your cabin, you come back, the bed is perfect. There's a towel in the shape of a small animal and a piece of candy. I mean, every experience I've had has been so incredible, from the wait staff, the servers, and the dining room. Of course, I'm always with kids, the way they treated the children. What is the proper tipping on a cruise line?
Okay, so this is actually something you do not have to worry about, because what they're going to do, each cruise line is going to say that they're going to automatically add $13.50, $14.50, $17, $18, $20, depending on the type of room you have, per person per day to the stateroom, so that when you check out, it's automatically there. If you're unhappy with the service, you can always go down and tell them you don't want a portion of that there, for example. But the fact of the matter is, they're going to automatically include it, or you can prepay it. Before you go, you can have it prepaid, because some people don't want to have to pay anything at all once they get on the ship. But there are opportunities to tip other people. If you'd like to tip the maitre d' in the restaurant
Hmm.
because you want to have him try to do better for you than maybe you can do on your own there. If you want to give an extra tip to whoever on the ship might have done a fabulous job that wouldn't have necessarily been getting your stateroom tip that's divided between the people that take care of you, you certainly can do that as well. But it is a relatively easy answer because they guide you in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I've
But
always gotten the bill at the end and it says this has been done. But you always want to. I always want to give a little more for great
and there's
service.
nothing wrong with that. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, that staff member is going to be thrilled with, and they'll give you all kinds of extra treatment if you do. That really is what we see.
And
But
everybody likes
speaking
extra treatment.
of dining, since you
Yeah.
mentioned that, I just want to not forget to point out that there are really two choices when it comes to dining on ships these days. And
Okay.
one of them is the traditional way, the way that cruising has been for many, many, many years, where you are given a time. An early dining time or a late dining time, and you go and you have the same waiter and the same busboy and the same table in the same dining room every night.
That's
And
usually
there
what
are
I like.
definitely advantages to that
Yeah.
because that same waiter and busboy, they know what you want and they know they'll have maybe that Coke waiting for you there because they know you're going to order it every
Hmm.
night, or they have something done a certain way because they expect you and they know your name and all of that. That's important. Um, the other way to go, which has become overwhelmingly popular,
Yeah.
is this anytime dining approach, where they say our dining room is open between 5:30 and 9:30, and you show up whenever you feel like it with whoever you feel like, and we seat you just like you would in any restaurant in your hometown. You walk in and you say, "We'd like to sit down. We're 6 people." Okay, and what's great about that is that you don't have to pre-plan,
Yeah.
and you can kind of just show up whenever. You can also make a reservation ahead of time for that, and I recommend that you do.
Yeah.
So that, let's say tonight we want to go at 7, but tomorrow we want to go at 5:30 because we have something special we need to do, or the next night we want to go later. Work it around the shows, that kind of thing. But it is important to understand the differences because everyone likes something different.
Yeah.
And you choose that when you book the cruise. You're choosing whether you want 8 p.m. dining or anytime dining.
Hmm.
The negative to anytime is, of course, you don't have that same table, those
Right.
same waiters, that
I
all
can
of
see the
that.
advantage of it though.
Right. And the other big disadvantage, so be careful if you're there with a group, you have your whole family with you, you're 15 people, let's say.
Right.
It's not easy to get 15 people seated together
Yeah. That's what
when
I've always
you
liked
just
about
are
it.
walking up.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a disadvantage. So I would always pick a traditional dining time if it's available
Right.
for you, because sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's sold out. They actually they get to capacity on that as well. So because each ship is different and what they have available, but you need to be thinking about that ahead of time.
Absolutely. All right. So let's talk about our 62 Who Knew audience for a while. Well, not for a while, but just to direct some things from what we can glean as we have grown. Our listeners are anywhere from probably 45 and up. I would say most of our listeners are between 55 and 65, but we have a tremendous amount at that 70 to 80 range as well. I think our
Mm-hmm.
sweet spot is probably 55 to 65. So again, we're spoiled here in Florida. You go to, you're on a different coast than I am in Florida, but you look out on the ocean, you see beautiful cruise ships. I look out
Totally
on the
spoiled.
Gulf of Mexico. Yeah, it's really incredible. So,
Also,
but
travel agents all over the country don't get to see as many ships as I get to see because
it's
we're here.
really amazing, isn't it? When you pull
Yeah,
into the
so
Fort
I
Lauderdale.
get to get on them to tour them all the time, and
Yeah.
that way,
You know,
really
I
good.
I fly over to your coast a lot, and it still amazes me when I land in Fort Lauderdale, depending on the runway that you come in on. Again, you look at these ships, and at first glance, you're going, "Is that a building?" No, it's a ship. It really is amazing. But let's just say I wanted to do something different than the Caribbean, but still that 3 to 4 day thing. I mean, I know when we do Alaska, it's going to be a lot longer than that. And I don't like long vacations. I'm making an exception
Okay.
for where can I go for 3, 4 days from the eastern
That's not an
seaboard.
easy, that's not, you're not going to find much.
No.
So in the Caribbean, you can do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 14, pretty much is what you see, sometimes 9, 10. Okay. In Alaska, you're going to start at 7. And for the Northeast, with people going up to Canada, New England, Bermuda, if they go out to Bermuda, those are all 7 days or longer, some of them 14. So you're unless you're doing Caribbean, I guess the only other time I've ever seen really short 2, 3, 4 night cruises would be when ships are transitioning, when they're moving from one place to another, and they're going to be starting a new itinerary somewhere else, and then you have a random 2 or 3 night, for example, somewhere.
Exactly.
Just because they're repositioning. Sometimes you see those on the Pacific coast. You'll see a couple of shorter ones over there that go to the different California ports before they're repositioning, let's say, to go to the Mexican Riviera. Hawaii cruising is 7 nights for the most part, or longer if they're moving from the States and going across, then they're much longer. There's transatlantic cruises. Those are obviously longer, a lot more days at sea than port. So that also tends to get a little bit older crowd because it's more relaxing. They're not running to go see 100 things. They're just having a lot of days at sea that are very nice. And then in Europe, you also will find mostly starting at 7 days. There may be a few smaller, shorter trips, but the so I'm not sure that
that 4-day 3-night type of thing. To me, that's just a perfect little getaway to relax for a while.
It's like a fun party weekend, honestly.
Yeah.
When you do a 3-day versus a 7, though, it's important that people understand that a 7-night cruise feels like a vacation.
Yeah,
it feels like a real vacation as opposed to having a fun party weekend. That there are, I mean, it's nothing wrong. I've been on a ton of 3-night cruises and they're great, but I'm just saying it is a different experience. And just this year, for the first time, really, have there even been any substantial cruise ships, like as far as the size and what they can offer in the 3-night market? Royal Caribbean just recently they've revitalized a number of their ships. And they've also spent a lot of money on a new a port of call on Out Island that they have that was Coco Cay. It still is Coco Cay, but now they call it Perfect Day at Coco Cay because they've made it absolutely incredible with the amount of options there. And the 3-night cruises do go there. So that's a great thing for the kids.
When you take it from 3 nights, let's say 4 days, to that 6-night, 6-day, 7-day cruise, what are we looking at price difference wise?
So it's actually not that different. It depends on time of year. So you could book a 3-night cruise for $500 or so a person in the summer, but you could book a 7-night cruise for $500 a person in the off season, as an example. So just know that it really depends on time of year. If kids are in school, it costs less. Almost always.
So maybe I should wait for everybody to go back to school and just have them take a few days off.
We'll talk about yours, but just in general, and don't, cruising is for everyone. Yeah. You could literally get on a ship for 3 nights for as low as like maybe even $300 a person. Okay. And you could also get on a 180-day round the world cruise. Okay. I mean, some luxury lines that are just going for 2 weeks could be 20, 30, 40,000 a person. I mean, so you really have a wide range to pick from, and so many different options out there as far as that goes.
Yeah, but I have to say, one of those 6-month cruises is is something on my bucket list for later in life.
They sell out. They sell out a year in advance. They sell out. It's crazy.
What an incredible 6 months that would be. Yeah.
It really is.
I've read about people that actually live on cruise ships.
Yep. I would love it.
Yeah.
But I do want to mention, you were talking about the 62 Who Knew audience. And I want to make sure that we mention that there are senior discounts for 55 and older that are available
Oh,
throughout the
great.
year.
I now qualify for a senior discount. Thank you for making me
in
feel much better now. Now I
Yeah,
know I
not
qualify.
always, but make sure to ask for
Damn,
that. Make sure to say,
I'm not
are there
asking
any
for that.
senior
But go ahead.
discounts right now? Because that's very important if you happen to come
Okay.
across that. And the other thing that I want to mention about once you're getting into people that are, let's say, in situations where where they have special needs. Um, there are great companies out there for special needs that will deliver a wheelchair or a walker or a scooter or an oxygen tank right to your door on the cruise ship or right to
Wow.
the dock at the port, so that even if you don't normally use one, but you're worried because you think you're going on this trip and you don't know if you're going to be able to do it without a walker or a wheelchair or the scooter that's electric, it might help you get around a little easier with your family, as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Great companies out there for that. Accessible type staterooms are also available that are really much larger to be able to fit wheelchairs and scooters in there, and all ships have those. You just have to know to ask for it. Also, people with special dietary needs, people with diabetes, people with CPAP machines, people with all kinds of things. You just have to request what you need. You need a refrigerator for the insulin. You need an extension cord for the CPAP. You need distilled water, and whatever it is that you might need. Don't be afraid to ask, because it will make your trip that much more fun.
It truly is a floating hotel. I mean, things have changed so much. True story. First cruise I ever took was a 1 week cruise. The cruise line is no longer in business. It wasn't the Titanic, to all our viewers, by the way. And I got seasick. I was brought up on the water, speedboats, vroom, vroom, vroom. Never experienced this. And oh my God, I was in my 30s, and it was just terrible. I had never felt a nausea like that. Went to the ship's doctor, gave me a shot. Within an hour, I felt great for the rest of the cruise. We're in the Caribbean. We docked, and we hear sirens and police in the Caribbean, and they're walking somebody off the ship. And everybody goes, "What's that?" And they go, "That's the doctor. We discovered he didn't have a medical license." So
Oh
I the doctor that gave me the shot like a couple nights. That was
Michael,
my first cruise experience, but I did feel good.
you just brought
So,
up two important points, though, really fast.
mhm,
One, if you're picking a stateroom, then you think that you might be seasick on the ship.
yeah.
Uh, the more midship, the better.
Okay.
The lower you are, the better. As far as seasickness is concerned, midship and lower would be best. Okay, the higher
Okay.
you are, the more you feel.
Yeah.
Also, the ships, the stabilizers are amazing. They
Unbelievable.
really do
Yeah.
an incredible job. My niece, 3 days into the cruise, said, "When are we getting on the boat, Aunt Julie?"
Isn't that
And
amazing? Isn't that amazing?
it was crazy. And then other thing you mentioned, the doctor. Buy travel insurance.
Really?
Travel protection is extremely important, and it is not something to be looked past. I mean, you want to think about this. It's not just for cancellation of your trip or for interruption of your trip. It's also for medical needs. If you're in some foreign country and you need to have medical care, or you need to be airlifted home, you need to have coverage for that. And it's really something that I can't stress enough, coming from the insurance business.
I
It's
never
just
realized.
highly recommended.
I never realized that was included. I always looked at that as, if you canceled, case closed.
Nope.
I never realized those options existed.
There's 24/7, call lines that if you're stuck somewhere and you need to find a hospital, that they can help you. You lost your passport, they need to help you. All kinds of things that travel policies will do to help you out. And so definitely something to look into. The cruise lines offer them, but the ones that are on the outside of the cruise line, sold on the outer marketplace, tend to have more medical benefits and more medical evac benefits.
Something for our viewers to definitely pay attention to. So, I know, again, from my limited experience, there's no such thing as this is not a coupon. This is not okay. It's 10% off. There are great deals out there. Again, knowing you and your family, and the credibility that you bring to it. I know that if the 62 Who Knew viewers click on your site. Oh, John, could we bring up Julie's website since we won't have it on the 62 Who Knew website, for at least a week, but probably about a week. But just so people can contact Julie when they can. We're going to bring that up for the remaining like 8 minutes. But there are deals, aren't there? Like you already brought up some things, certain off seasons. And we want our 62 Who Knew people. I mean, this is a big thing, a vacation, whether it's a land vacation, which we haven't talked about at all.
Another show.
Another show. Well, you know what? How much time do we have, John? I have, 8 minutes? I've only got 5 minutes. All right, you are going to come back. We'll bring you on with Mark and your dad. And then I'll just walk away because I won't get a word in edgewise. So all you'll see is a microphone here. We are going to get your website up just in case and it's already up there underneath your name, but you go ahead and say it. How would people contact you? Give me email, website, phone number.
Yes. So my website is very easy. It's cruisesbyjulie.com. So very, very simple.
Yes.
My email address is Julie, Julie, Hollender, HOLLENDER, @cruiseplanners.com. Okay. And my phone number is 954-952-2433.
All right. And your site is right there. Yay. A dadcation. I like that. I've went to your site. It's incredible. Of course, in the remaining few minutes, tell me a little bit about Cruise Planners. I mean, this is a world-class company. This is not Joe Blow Vacation, An
amazing company that has relationships with all of the cruise lines all over the world, and they just get such really wonderful opportunities to have special deals, exactly what you were talking about, because of the amount of business that we do and the relationships that we have. We get special treatment. So we have a wonderful range of products available, not just cruises, even though it's called Cruise Planners and my website is Cruises by Julie. Mm-hmm. We do have all kinds of other things, land vacations, land tours, all-inclusives, all kinds of things. And we really do a great job on the technology side as well. We have an app for you to download and see your whole trip on that.
Oh, wow.
And follow it there, which a lot of companies do not. So that's been something really great. And we've gotten all kinds of awards on the technology side. So when you go to the website, you'll see how much is available there. And I am so looking forward to talking to anybody who would like to chat about maybe their next vacation, because as you can see, there are so many different choices, and we didn't even touch on. I can't even tell you how many things we didn't talk about.
Well, that's why you're going to come back and be a constant visitor, and your website's going to be up. I mean, we might have to. I think there are going to be nights, where we have one. Person on. Remember, we're going to a panel show in the next 4 weeks where we'll have 3 people. We'll have a couple of regulars talking about the things that I won't say it's amazing and I won't say it's depressing, but our most popular shows, what has made us grow, are the topics of long-term care insurance, Medicare, Medicare supplements, reverse mortgages, and also dementia and Alzheimer's. These are the topics that people are flocking to the show to see. And I'm proud of that, and I'm glad we're bringing, such great people. And many of these great people that are coming on.
And they're topics that are very, very important and hard to understand.
But I think our 62 Who Knew overall look has to include health, vacation, enjoyment. We had a comedian on by the name of G. David Howard, one of the most popular comedians in the country. I don't know if you got to see that, but all we did it was about 2 months ago. All we did was laugh for an hour. And I think we're going to have to do that because you can't always come on and go, let's go to 62 Who Knew. I don't want, when we grow past 100,000, for people to go, well, let's see what they're going to tell us we're doing wrong in our life now. There's that line. We don't have enough insurance. We need a reverse mortgage. I want to walk them down. I want to be down there so they can wave at me like on the Love Boat. We should have planned on that, John. We should have went out with the Love Boat theme. We'll do that the next time. Yeah, no, don't sing, John.
There you go.
Yeah. Next time you're on, we're going out with the Love Boat theme. And to think that we have, do you think it's a coincidence that Captain Stubing's assistant was Julie? I
No.
think not. I think not. For those of you that don't remember, we have Captain Stubing, Julie, Doc, Gopher, and Isaac to thank for all of this. For those of you watching the TV show that are too young to get the reference, Google it, because I'm not going to tell you.
Julie was the cruise director.
I know, she was the cruise director. And I had a crush on her like you can't imagine. I think most people had a crush on Julie and good old Captain Stubing. I didn't have a crush on Captain Stubing.
Good.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Nope.
Thank you so much for being here. We're going to we'll talk tomorrow about my family's cruise.
Thank you for having me.
Are you kidding me? You know how I feel about you and your family. You're just such a tremendous group of people. We got 30 seconds left. Julie, love you. Thank you for being here.
Take care.
And we look forward to doing a lot of things.
I'll be back.
I'll be back. Thank you very much. To our audience, we got about 20 seconds left. This was an example of how we are revamping 62 Who Knew. We want to bring you all types of services and products that bring a smile. We got 5 seconds left, and we got a great show next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.